শিক্ষাৰ অনুষ্ঠানলৈ আপোনালোক আটাইকে স্বাগতম জনাইছো। আমি বিগত 2 বছৰ এই 15 মিনিট শিক্ষাৰ মঞ্চত অসমৰ কলেজীয়া পৰ্যায়ৰ ছাত্ৰ-ছাত্ৰীৰ কাৰণে বিভিন্ন অনুষ্ঠান অনুষ্ঠিত কৰি আহিছো। ইতিমধ্যে আমি প্ৰায় অৰ্ধশতক অনুষ্ঠান অনুষ্ঠিত কৰিছো। আজি আমাৰ মাজত আছে তেজপুৰ বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ অধ্যাপক চন্দন কুমাৰ শৰ্মা। তেখেতে সমাজতত্ত্ব বিজ্ঞানৰ তত্ত্বৰ ওপৰত এটা বক্তৃতা প্ৰদান কৰিব। অধ্যাপক চন্দন কুমাৰ শৰ্মা অসমত এটা পৰিচিত নাম। অসমৰ বিদ্যায়তনিক, বৌদ্ধিক আৰু সমাজ জীৱনত তেখেতৰ এটা সুকীয়া পৰিচয় আছে। অসম তথা উত্তৰ পূৰ্বাঞ্চলৰ বিভিন্ন মৌলিক সমস্যালৈ তেওঁ চিন্তাগধুৰ প্ৰবন্ধ আৰু গৱেষণা কৰিছে। আজিৰ অনুষ্ঠানত তেখেত উপস্থিত থাকি আমাৰ বক্তৃতা প্ৰদান কৰা আৰু লগতে ইয়াত উপস্থিত থকা শিক্ষাৰ্থীসকলৰ সৈতে প্ৰশ্নোত্তৰ শিতানত উপস্থিত থকাৰ বাবে তেখেতক অশেষ ধন্যবাদ জ্ঞাপন কৰিছো। আজিৰ অনুষ্ঠানটোত প্ৰথমে প্ৰায় 35-40 মিনিট সময় তেখেতে বক্তৃতা প্ৰদান কৰিব। তাৰ পিছত ইয়াত উপস্থিত থকা অংশগ্ৰহণকাৰী আৰু শিক্ষাৰ্থীসকলে তেওঁলোকৰ প্ৰশ্নসমূহ তেখেতক সুধিব পাৰিব আৰু এই প্ৰশ্নসমূহৰ উত্তৰ অধ্যাপক শৰ্মাদেৱে আমাক দিব। গতিকে আপোনালোক আটাইকে আকৌ এই অনুষ্ঠানলৈ আদৰণি জনাইছো আৰু আমি অধ্যাপক শৰ্মাক তেখেতৰ বক্তৃতা ৰাখিবৰ কাৰণে অনুৰোধ জনাইছো। ধন্যবাদ।
Thank you, Professor Hirendranath, for giving me this opportunity to share your platform to speak on an issue which is sometimes misunderstood by general people, in the sense that they often confuse, for example, sociology with social science in general. And this is a kind of experience which we often come across. And the other issue is that sociology is a discipline which is not there in every institution, every college or institution of higher education. That is also one factor that leads to such confusions. So in this particular lecture, because the topic is very wide, but nevertheless, I would like to highlight some important issues about the discipline. What does sociology mean? How did it emerge? What are its contributions? What are the contribution of the various sociologists to the production of knowledge? And what are the different career opportunities that the discipline can offer? So these are some of the issues that I would like to highlight. So I thank Professor Nath again and Dr. Rifat for this invitation. First is, what is sociology? You know, it's a critical discipline and it is a social science like other social sciences, like economics, history, political science, psychology, law, and so on and so forth. Can you highlight the slide, please? What is sociology? Yes. Right. And it's, simply speaking, it is the systematic study of social interactions. However, how this study is undertaken is much complex, and the sociological study includes analysis of mundane everyday encounters of individuals to worldwide social process, analysis of worldwide global social processes. So its subject matter is very wide. And so now, what are the importance of the discipline of sociology? The study of sociology, as I have just pointed out, it helps understand human society and how social systems work, number one. Now, comparative study of different human societies, different societies enable us to understand what are the different common problems that they have and what are the different solutions these societies have, so that we can have certain solutions to universal human problem of improving our quality of life. And here, let me emphasize that in sociology, comparative analysis, comparative study is the most important thing. No study is complete until we make some comparative analysis of a particular phenomenon. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, let me go to a much misunderstood issue, which is like, what is the difference between sociology and common sense? Many people would say that I know this phenomenon and or I know this issue, and what is so significant about sociological knowledge. Here, we must understand that unlike common sense, which is intuitive and personal, based on personal experience, so sociological knowledge, however, is it looks for interconnections and root causes of social events, phenomenon, which may not be apparent, unlike common sense. The other is that, unlike common sense, sociological knowledge uses reason and empirical evidence. Common sense, as you all know, often uses assumptions and stereotypical beliefs. And Peter Berger, who is an author of a very interesting classic on sociology, Invitation to Sociology, a humanistic approach, written in 1939, here he says that the fascination of sociology lies in the fact that its perspective makes us see in a new light the very phenomenon in which we have lived our lives. Now let me go to another very important concept. Sorry, let me finish this. Sociology and common sense. Although we have these differences, there are certain ways in which common sense can also complement sociological knowledge. For example, common sense helps sociologists in hypothesis building. Based on commonsensical knowledge, and sociologists can always test such hypotheses and build sociological knowledge, as sociological knowledge therefore grows out of answering questions generated from common sense. Then there are modern, in that sense, the theory is of course postmodern, but the postmodernists believe that there is no way we can privilege sociological knowledge, or any knowledge for that matter, from common sense. We cannot privilege sociological knowledge over common sense, because sociological knowledge is as uncertain, as unstable as common sense. Let me here point out that postmodernists, they do not believe in that there is any such thing as gospel truth, which means they do not believe in the very definition, or they do not believe that there is something called absolute bedrock of truth. So in that sense, therefore knowledge, so-called scientific knowledge, can claim superiority over common sense. So this is their position. Secondly, there are other sociologists like Irving Goffman, who is the propounder of a sociological theory called dramaturgy, and then ethnomethodology. These are different sociological theories these theories, they believe that men make meaning out of social reality, out of their everyday interaction. So therefore, common sense is something which plays a very important role in making sense of the reality. Now, let me go to a very important concept called sociological imagination. What is sociological imagination? And in fact, this term comes from the classic work of C. Wright Mills, who was a professor in Columbia University. He wrote a book called Sociological Imagination in 1959, where he introduced this concept. And he argues that when history is unfolding in a global scale, and there is so much of diffusion of information bombarding us all the time, there is so much of confusion about what these information really mean. And we often feel kind of helplessness, having not been able to make meaning out of this information. So he says that in order to make sense of this information unfolding at a global scale, we need certain quality of mind to process that information and orient ourselves in society. So sociological imagination is that quality of mind by which an individual can see the relationship between personal and the public, between biography and history, between where his personal choice, personal troubles, and the troubles at the wider social troubles at a wider scale. And without this connection, as I pointed out, people feel trapped by by circumstances which are beyond their control. For example, war is beyond their control. Large-scale unemployment, not getting a job is often beyond their control. Despite having education, people sometimes fail to get a job, and it is sometimes beyond their control. We have situations which are in our control. The situations like whom we choose as friend, whom we, which school we go. I mean, some degree of personal control we have in these matters. But there are, as I said, there are bigger issues where we have no personal choice. We have no control over them. So using sociological imagination, we can view these issues as interconnected personal and public concerns, as interconnected between personal and public concerns, and make sense of such issues which we think troubles in our life, and which makes us feel helpless. But if we can make sense of the larger issues, what causes this issue, what caused this kind of personal trouble, then we are in a much better position, and perhaps something which enables us to think anew, to act towards redressal of such larger issues. Let me now go to the background of the emergence of sociology. Now, having understood what is sociological imagination, which is the capacity to make sense of the relationship between personal troubles and larger social issues, and acquiring that quality of mind is sociological imagination, which is very important for every individual, actually, not only sociologists, general public, so that they can make sense of the larger issues which they think are challenging their existence. Now, let me go to the emergence of sociology. Like many disciplines, social science disciplines, sociology also has its own background of emergence, and that there are three events or three phenomenon, three factors which led to the emergence of sociology. First is the Enlightenment of the 17th to early 19th century Europe, and which emphasized enlightenment. As you all know, it's also called an age of reason, which emphasized on critical ideas like freedom, democracy, and reason. And it also is known for its new look, new idea about man, society, and nature. And it challenged the traditional worldview dominated by religion. So these are some of the basic tenets and tenets of enlightenment. Then comes the industrial revolution of late 18th century England, which also saw a major shift in technological, economic, and social environment in contemporary Britain, which gradually spread to to other parts of the world. And technology brought significant changes in the workplace, which led to great improvement and efficiency. Machines became the symbol of new society, and humanity could be seen to be all working into this machine. Technology also improved transportation and hence trade and commerce between countries. The improvements in communication brought people and societies closer to one another. So we can see, therefore, a kind of paradigmatic shift in the social conditions. Then comes the French Revolution of late 18th century, which continued for almost a decade. And French Revolution had a great impact on society because it changed its structure. The power shifted away from church, which started already during the Enlightenment period, and came into the hands of the people. This was the first time that people were seen as citizens. Additionally, the French Revolution brought significant changes to the family, since it was followed by the Declaration of Human Rights, which stated that all humans are born free and equal. It also recognized the practice of divorce, so brought in a kind of new dimension to the concept of family. So these are some of the important changes which were brought about by these three important events. And there was a new need for a new science of society to theorize, to explain, understand, analyze the changes that these three events have brought about, and which is known by theorized by Carl Polanyi in his work, The Great Transformation, this period, and which led to the emergence of sociology as a response to these developments in Europe. Now, let me go to the some of the founding fathers of the discipline, and you will see that they are all born during that time. Let me first mention Saint-Simon, who is a French philosopher and socialist. And Saint-Simon, in response to these developments that I have just mentioned, he emphasized he proposed a new science of society, and which was he's one of his followers, Auguste Comte, took cue from him and coined the term sociology to name the new science of society proposed by Saint-Simon. And the method, I mean, there is not much time to talk about his methods, which is very interesting, however, that he made a whole list of sciences and social sciences, and with physics at the top and sociology at the below, depending on the complexity. I mean, the more the complexity, less the scientificity. And because sociology is most complex of all these disciplines, it ranked at the bottom of the list. There is a pyramid that he made. Anyway, so and in order to attain the scientificity that I have just mentioned, he coined a new term called positivism, that you need to study society like you study science. You study sociology like you study physics. Very interesting to mention that when he coined the term sociology, before that actually he referred to sociology as social physics. Let me now go to the next founding fathers. I am going by the biographical, their dates, not necessarily in terms of their philosophical or theoretical contributions to schools of thought. Let me go to now Karl Marx. Although we all know he is an economist, he's a political economist, and one may also call him a historian. His ideas of social change through class struggle has greatly informed sociological understanding of social progress. And we all know that, I mean, the interpretation of the social change in through ages, how it happens through class struggle, here how there are two classes in every society, and because of their conflict, society moves ahead. So he emphasized the term class, and his method is known as historical materialism. There are other theorists who would say that society progressed because of conflict of ideas, but he says that ideas are actually born in material conditions, and therefore their conflict leads to social change. And his approach is therefore known as historical materialism. So it is not ideal, but material conditions. Ideas, not ideas, but material conditions, which contributes to the social progress, and conflict that is resulted from this conflict from the situations, conditions of the material material conditions of a particular society. And he is also a critic of capitalism. And as we all know that capitalism started emerging as a very important force during that time. And he especially, of course, since he was a propounder of class struggle, there are different ages when these class struggles take place, and society, as a result of that struggle or conflict, society moves ahead. So he believed that the potential of this conflict is there in the capitalist society as well. And where does it lie? It lies in the extraction of surplus value. Although society changed very fast and technology also changed and production also increased, but the labor class, the working class, did not benefit commensurately, and they were still exploited. There were long working hours, and since they did not own the means of production which were owned by the capitalists, so they were subjected to abject exploitation, serious exploitation. Now, this kind of and whatever they produce, the maximum of the value that they produce used to go to the capitalist, the proprietor, the entrepreneur. So this kind of a situation definitely it created the situation which can blow out as a conflict at a much larger scale later on. But the potential is there in the extraction of surplus value, in that kind of exploitation. It also led to alienation among the workers, because of extreme division of labor, and what happened, they were made to produce things with which perhaps they did not feel attachment. So their creativity was not satisfied. So they were doing the same kind of production, for example, assembly line production. People are doing the same kind of work, but this same kind of work is also a part of the whole part of the whole. They were not producing something which they can recognize when it comes out as a final product. So there is an dissociation from the product that they produce, number one. Number two, there was a dissociation as a result from themselves because they lost their creativity. They cannot satisfy their creativity. And third, gradually they also get dissociated, alienated from the society itself. So these concepts of Marx actually also influence many subsequent sociologists who have worked on these issues. Let me now go to the next important sociologist, Emile Durkheim. Yes, who is a French positivist who was a follower of Kant, the father of sociology, and unlike Marx, who emphasized conflict as a basis of social change, he, however, emphasized consensus and social order. Now, he also talked about division of labor in society. And he has a very famous book called Division of Labor in Society, written in 1893. His first book. It is focused on division of labor, which examine in society, which examine how it differed in traditional and modern societies. In traditional societies, the division of labor is mechanical. And so we are doing the same, would do the same kind of work, or same people will do different kind of works. So division of labor is mechanical. But in modern societies, we have specialization. So division of labor is therefore different in modern society. And based on this, in ancient society, the traditional societies, the division of labor, the solidarity, because we all need solidarity in society. The solidarity was mechanical. But on the other hand, in modern societies, which is based on the division of labor is more organic, people are more interdependent. The solidarity is organic. So there is a shift from mechanical to organic solidarity. And in traditional societies where you have mechanical solidarity, you have a collective consciousness. We cannot deviate from collective consciousness. But in modern society, where you have organic solidarity, you have your own individual consciousness. So you can sometimes go against collective consciousness. So depending on this, he also had he made contributions about, he tried to understand how law and punishment is related, penal system is related in these two societies. Say, for example, in traditional societies where you have organic solidarity, we have collective consciousness, you have repressive law. So the deviant will be punished. That is the punished, and punishment is the aim. But in modern societies where you have organic solidarity, it is not necessarily punishment. It is not repressive. It is restitutive. So what is more important is to bring back the social normalcy. So there are different kinds of society. Now, another important contribution he made was the concept of anomie. Anomie is valuelessness. So what happens is that since society is changing, evolving from mechanical to organic solidarity, from collective to individual consciousness, what happens is that often we see conflict between them. As a result of which, when the conflict is little, in the upper side, then we have a sense of loss of norms leading to anomic situation. And all deviant behavior actually happen because of such anomic situation. And then another very important concept he had was social fact. and that comes from Kant's positivism, and he says that sociology is a science of social fact, and therefore it has to, and he also explained what is a social fact. A social fact is not every fact that we get to see. A social fact is something which is independent of us, which constrains us. And sociology is interested in studying social facts. And based on this concept, he had this study on suicide, very interesting study based on statistical analysis and so on and so forth. In his book published in 1897, where he said that suicide is not only determined by biology or psychology. It is more determined by social factors. It is more a suicide is a social fact, not a psychological or biological fact. That is his argument. And he says that society which are loosely integrated, we see, more number of suicide. And so therefore, suicide and social integration are inversely related. So, and therefore he says that it is a social fact, it's not a psychological fact. Similarly, he has this work on elementary forms of religious life, where he says, unlike others, that religion is what? Religion is worship of God. But he says, actually, worshipping God is not the aim of religion. Here he says that, here actually, by worshipping God, actually following different rituals, etc., we are necessarily actually celebrating society. We are renewing our, what should I say? We are renewing our allegiance, our bondage with the community, and allegiance to the society, and thereby actually worshipping, replenishing our social life. So basically, while religion is supposed to be worshipping of God, here, according to him, this God actually represents nothing but the society itself. Now, let me go to another very important founding fathers of sociology, Max Weber. Max Weber, a German sociologist, and unlike Marx, he had a very different take on class, and very interestingly, although sociology is supposed to be actually, is a science of society, but problem is that there are different orientations, different perspectives, how you look at, as I mentioned in the very beginning, and therefore Max Weber's class is different from what Marx said. Marx, his class is not based on what Marx says, that class is rooted in production, in production relations. His concept of class is different, and he talks of three kind of social class, basically. Three kind of basis of social class, which are social class. I'm sorry. He talks about three kind of basis of class. First is social class, number two, status, and third is power. And there are power or authority, which are of, power is of two kinds. One, of course, is coercion. The other is legitimacy. So coercion, however, has less capacity to control people because you have to apply force and people often resist. But authority is something which people think that this is legitimate, and therefore they owe their allegiance to authority. And there are three kinds of authority according to him: traditional, rational, legal, and charismatic. Say, for example, traditional authority is, say, traditionally, for example, say a village chief is a traditional authority. Okay, a charismatic authority is a very popular leader. He's a charismatic. A lot of things, a lot of authority that he draws, masters, is not because of any other authority, but because of his or her charisma. And the third, which is most important, is rational legal authority, which is rational and which is backed by law. Which is backed by law. And bureaucracy is one such authority, which is a rational legal authority. Weber was one of the most important theorists of bureaucracy. And according to him, bureaucracy is the ideal rational legal authority. Then he also, I'm sorry. Then he also identified or defined social action. Not all kinds of actions are social. How would you understand social action? Social actions are those where we have to see some kind of relationship between the ends and the means. Why we act? It must have some meaning. Where from we draw our meaning is a different question altogether. But say, for example, some of our social actions are based on affectual relations. We meet somebody and immediately hug. So it's an affectual relationship. There are relationships actions which are dependent on values. And say, for example, loving one's motherland and actions which draw out of this is drawn out of this is something which we can call value rational. They are all rational actions, but there are different kinds of rational actions. Then we have proper rational actions, which are instrumental rational or purposeful action. So there are different kinds of actions, and as a sociologist, we are supposed to make distinctions among these different kinds of actions. Then one of his very important concept is called ideal type, which is like, say for example, bureaucracy is an ideal type rational legal authority. Now, ideal type is not something which is an imaginary concept, but it's a methodological tool. It's a model. So therefore, if I say, for example, study democracy in India, I first have to understand what does democracy mean. So I have to collect its different parameters from different sources. What are the different parameters of democracy? If, say, for example, India or any other country for that matter conforms to those parameters, then it is a democracy. If it does not, then it's not a democracy, or it is not an ideal democracy. Things like that. So ideal type is therefore a kind of methodological tool which gives us a kind of a concrete. It's an abstraction, of course, but concrete something to compare a particular situation, whether that situation, how far that situation is ideal or not. So again, Weber is one of the founding fathers of modern studies on cities, and his work, "This City," is one of the most important work on city and still remains a classic. Then he's let me now go back to different other before that, let me also highlight Weber's work on religion and social change. And what is interesting is that it is often said that Weber is in conflict, or is in fight with the ghost of Karl Marx. For example, he had a different definition of class, which is not based on production relations, but based on, say, for example, status is also a kind of class. Power also create a particular kind of class, which Marx would not recognize. Then he also says that, for more Marx, for example, religion is an epiphenomenon of economy. But Weber, in his work, The Protestant Ethics and the Spirit of Capitalism, which is a very well-known work, where he said that even Protestant ethic, it may be religion, but Protestant ethic had a very important role to play in the emergence of capitalism in Western Europe. So although this theory have been challenged by others, and there are different people who studied other societies where also they found that religion in other societies have also contributed to the rise of capitalism. For example, Tokugawa religion, Shintoism in Japan also contributed to the emergence of Japanese capitalism. Many people would say that in India is not totally otherworldly, which he says that otherworldly behavior is not a congenial atmosphere for the growth of capitalism, development of capitalism. But in India also, it had its own trading class and groups. So there has been criticism against Weber's postulation. And apart from others, for example, the Marxists would not believe that religion has any independent existence, but only an epiphenomenon of economy. Now, so these are the main propounders. These theories are known as the founding fathers of sociology. There are others, but I will come to them, but very select ones. But before that, I would also like to say that, you see, I have just mentioned certain terms, certain ideas, certain perspectives. For example, Marx believed in conflict. Durkheim believed in consensus. Weber believed in, say, for example, status and power, where as a basis of social class. Marx, however, believed that it is in the economy. It is based on economic. Class is something which is determined by one's position within the production relations. So we see these differences among the founding fathers themselves. So based on these, we have different kind of theories in sociology or theoretical perspectives. Functionalism is one. Functionalism believes in consensus and order. Like, say, for example, human body, we have different parts, and society is also like a human body, which came from actually Herbert Spencer's social Darwinism, and you see, so every part has its own functions. So if one part does not play its own function, then what happens is that there is problem in the society, right? So sorry, there is some problem here. Okay. So functionalism later on also changed its character to some extent. We had systems theory of Talcott persons and so on and so forth. But basic fact is that it emphasizes consensus and social order. On the other hand, we have conflict theories. Of course, Marx is one who emphasized social conflict as a basis of social progress, and he did not take conflict as dysfunctional. Although functionalists would say that any kind of conflict is dysfunctional to the society because they disturb social equilibrium. Then we have theorists who are called conflict theorists. For example, Gemmell, German theorists. We have theorists like Koza. They are conflict theorists. They say that conflict is not always dysfunctional. Even conflict is also functional. Say, for example, when two countries fight, what happens is that this kind of opposition, this kind of conflict, leads to patriotism inside individual countries. So therefore, while at a particular level, it is a conflict, but it has also, provided, what should I say? solidarity to the people in the individual countries. So conflict is also at a level is therefore functional. Conflict is therefore also positive for society. And these are basically macro societies, macro theories or grand theories. They deal with big issues. For example, functionalism, Marxism, conflict theories, they deal with bigger situations. On the other hand, we have also theories which are called micro theories and which give importance not only to structure, but also to, or maybe more, to the agency, to individuals. As I said, everyday interactions, trying to make meaning of everyday life through everyday interaction. So these are micro theorists, and where agency is given importance. So for example, there are theories like symbolic interactionism, dramaturgy. I have just mentioned about Goffman, and then ethnomethodology. These are theories or theoretical perspectives which give emphasis to the role of the agency, the human being, in making meaning of everyday life. Then we have theorists which have tried to actually strike a balance between the macro and the micro, the grand theories and these micro theories. The structure theories which emphasizes on structure, and the theories which emphasize on agency. And one such theory is known as structurism. And the founder of this theory, of course, it came much later in the 1980s. I will come back to this. And so structurism theory, it strikes a balance between both agency and the structure. And it says that, yes, both are important, agency and structure, but what happens is while structure has its influence over agents or agency of individuals, but the agent or the individual through his continuous action can also influence the structure. So there is a dialogical relationship between the two. And therefore, social structure is not something which is static, but is constantly changing because of this interaction. So this is known as structurism. And then we have neo-functionalism, which contests, as you know, functionalism became a pejorative term later on. If somebody is called a functionalist, that means it's a pejorative term, it's a negative term. But then later on, in the 1980s, we saw some sociologists like Jeffrey Alexander, who contributed to the development of a variety of functionalism, but a new avatar of functionalism called neo-functionalism. Unlike functionalism, it incorporated some elements of conflict. Then I mentioned Talcott Parsons, who is a very important sociologist. Talcott Parsons' postulation, actually, he had very sure footing about what is modernity. And he had a, theory called, not theory, it's a postulation called pattern variables. So what are the different parameters of developed countries and the developing countries? And developing countries are always to follow the developed countries in order to achieve or develop, or he basically termed modern and traditional societies. So traditional societies are always to follow those parameters to become modern. So these certitude about modernity was something which Parsons emphasized, was actually negated by neo-functionalism. Then we have post-structuralism, and postmodern, which I have already pointed out that for them there is no absolute truth. So they contest every truth, and everything is discourse. Everybody has equal voice. Polyvocality. They think that things are not certain. The way we think earlier, so for example, modernists believe that we are definitely going towards particular direction is something which they, raise a lot of doubt about. Okay. So now let me go to some of the, modern sociologists and the kind of contributions that they have made. What is, you see, we have to understand that these contributions that I have just mentioned have to be also understood in terms of the social conditions to which they have been responding. The different social processes, as we have already seen, that sociology itself, came as a response to the changes brought about by Enlightenment, Industrial Revolution, and French Revolution. So at different stages, we have seen how sociology has been making sociology has been responding to different kind of social processes, and social theories and ideas came out of these responses. So now these are very select lists. Say they are also very important sociologists who have made contributions to understand the contemporary social processes. Gmail's name I have already mentioned as a conflict theorist. His work, The Metropolis and Mental Life, is one of the first work to understand the psychological conditions, the changes that citizens go through in a metropolis. Then we have the work of Wilfredo Perotto, who is also an economist, Italian philosopher, sociologist, and economist. His work on circulation of elites, it talks about how, there is a circulation of elites. There are different kind of elites. Some are very, very, bold, like lions, and some are like fox, who are timid. And he said that, there is as ruling power, there is a circulation of both the lions and the foxes. So they are not there for all time to come. If the lions are there today, then a day will come when the foxes will be the ruling power, and it will continue like this. So this is his theory, and we have to understand that he propounded this theory in the first quarter of the 20th century, and it was also a time when fascism was also on the rise. So these kind of social contexts are also important to understand. So similarly, Louis Ward, and a Chicago professor, university professor, his work of urbanism as a way of life. And we have to understand how urbanism was changing the way of life of people. And in response to such way of life, like Gmail, he wrote this particular essay, Urbanism as a Way of Life. And this is first essay to theorize urbanism. Before that, actually, urbanism was more a kind of descriptive phenomenon, or urbanization for that matter was a kind of descriptive phenomenon, but he tried to theorize. Then we come to, say, Talcott Parsons, his systems theory, which is very interesting, which is like he used to look at, as a functionalist, he used to look at society as social system, which has different parts. Or different subsystems. Say economy is one subsystem, polity is one subsystem, religion is one subsystem, education is one subsystem. There are 4 subsystems, performing 4 definite tasks. Economy performs the task of what? Task of goal attainment. How to attain a goal. How to, we all have to, adaptation, not goal attainment, I'm sorry, adaptation. So how do we adapt with our environment? So food, clothing, shelter, these are very important things which economy take care of. Okay. Then comes goal attainment. How to attain these, how to adapt, how to attain our goals. This is something which is determined by politics. Third is, say, adaptation, goal attainment, integration. How we are integrated to the society? We are all individuals. How are we integrated into the society? And this role is played by education. It has a very important role. It integrates us with the larger society. Then fourth, it is church, which without our knowing, or religion for that matter, without our knowing, it helps us to, in a latent manner, to become part of the society. We are socialized, without our own knowledge, unknowingly we become part of the society. So these four, unless that happens, there will be problem in the society. Okay, so when these four functions are performed by four subsystems, the social system is in equilibrium. And pattern variables, I have already mentioned, there are two sets of values, modern societies and traditional societies. For example, in modern society, you have the values like achievement. Say, whatever you do, you have to achieve it, right? Your birth does not determine your achievement in life. But in traditional societies, you can achieve through what? Through ascription, the family in which I'm born, right? So I have traditional privileges. Then, you see, things are universal or impersonal in modern societies. Law is impersonal, and it is applicable to all. But in, say, traditional societies, it is effective. It is particular. You know, if I know somebody, if somebody is my relative, then he or she may be treated differently. So these are different, variables which distinguishes modern society from traditional society, something which a lot of sociologists and others have criticized later on as ethnocentric. Giddens, I have already talked about what Giddens' contribution is, structuration. Granovetter's contribution is very interesting. He's one of the very highly cited sociologists and social scientists. His work, The Strength of Weak Ties, and it highlights how generally we believe that strong ties are more important for us. Strong ties are what? Our family ties, close relatives, our neighbors. These are strong ties, our close friends. But he says that it is not the strong ties which is important in business, in diffusion of information. What is important is the weak ties, because it allows us to, what are the weak ties? The people that we meet fleetingly, we meet at, say, for example, in the marketplace, somebody we never met, but when we interact with them, what happens is that there is a different kind of information flow, and that helps. That something which does not happen when we interact only with those whom we meet on everyday basis. So this is a very interesting concept, and which also have a lot of economic implications. Similarly, his work embeddedness, which again highlighted by Carl Poliani, whom I mentioned in his work Great Transformation, and he says that every economic relations actually is embedded in social relations. Without understanding the social relations, it is not possible to understand economic relations. So while trying to usher in development or taking economic actions, it is very important to understand what are the social relations, existing social relations in a particular context. Now, Jürgen Habermas, who is a German sociologist, his concept of public sphere is also very, and these are concepts I'm discussing because these are very popular concepts, and these have moved beyond the disciplinary boundaries of sociology and have been adopted by all social sciences. His public sphere is also therefore a very important concept, and here he considers in public sphere is basically seen as a domain of social life where public opinion can be formed. And for a democratic society, for a civil society, this is a very important idea. Public sphere is open to all citizens. It has to be open to all citizens and is constituted in every conversation we enter with each other and when we come together to form a public. The citizen plays the role of a private person who is not acting on behalf of a business or private interests, but as one who is dealing with matters of general interest in order to form a public sphere. Therefore, public opinion. So what happens is that although Habermas considers state power as public power because we elect the government, and which is legitimate, and it is therefore legitimate entity because we elect them through general elections. The state and its forceful practices, however, and powers are not part of public sphere. Therefore, public opinion has to control the state and its authority in everyday discussions, as well as through formal elections. A public sphere is the basic requirement to mediate between state and society, and an ideal situation permits democratic control of state activities. Let me now go to the concept of social capital of Pierre Bourdieu, which is also a very important concept. And for him, actually, social capital was something which he said that a social capital is something which can be seen in the network of relationship of individuals, and it can be effectively mobilized for fulfilling individual aspirations. While, however, Bourdieu emphasizes its role in reproducing social inequality, because what happens is that when you have stronger social capital, since it is an individual, individual merit of somebody, individual, attribute of somebody. What happens is that the other people may not have the similar social capital. So Pierre Bourdieu was critical of this concept of social capital. But later on, taking cue from Bourdieu, Robert Putnam, an American sociologist, he used it in a very different sense, and he used it, in a positive sense. And he says that it is a property of a whole society, unlike individual. He said it's a property of the whole society, and he used it. And he thinks that the society which has more social capital has more potential to develop. And very interestingly, World Bank also adopted his idea as a way of to ensure development in developing societies. So that's a different, there is a whole critique of this idea of social capital. Then the concept of habitus, which is also very important concept. And concept of habitus, here what Bourdieu develops a theory of action around the concept of this concept of habitus. And habitus is something we can also, compare it with the process of socialization. Habitus theory, it seeks to show that social agents develop strategies which are adapted to the structures of social worlds in which they inhabit. So, so these two very important concepts, they belong to Pierre Bourdieu. Then the concept of network society, which is explained in the context of, in the context of globalization, how there has been a rise of network society. Manuel Castel, who is a Spanish social scientist, and he developed this concept of a network society. Of course, there are certain predecessors of him who coined this term, but he tried to understand the how modern societies are, what should I say, bound by wide network. and what are the different conditions and consequences of such network. Let me now go to Saskia Sassen, and whose concept of who is an urban theorist, and her concept of global city has shaped the way other theorists have analyzed the role of citizens and the network in the contemporary world. And her concept of global city is an emphasis on the flow of information and capital. She identifies certain cities, like, for example, Tokyo, New York, London, Shanghai, Singapore, as global cities, and and there are certain attributes of such global cities. And so, in order to understand how these networks perform, how these flow of information and capital take place in her work. Then comes Alan Sneyberg. Sneyberg is an environmental sociologist, and he is known for his concept of treadmill of production. Now, what is treadmill of production? In his work, Social Synthesis of Societal Environmental Dialectic, written in 1975, Alan, and I have to just mention that environmental sociology itself is a new discipline which started emerging only in 1970s in response to different kind of social movements there at that time against environmental degradation in the 50s and 60s. There are mostly in the United States and also in other parts of the world. So most of the sociological theories on environment belong to that age, and this work is also product of 1970s. And here he says the theory of treadmill of production highlights how the constant search for economic growth, because they are all concerned about environmental degradation, but the answer is always that for economic growth we need we have to accept some degradation and things like that. So he says that constant search for economic growth leads to advanced economies stuck in a treadmill, where their well-being is not, the well-being of the people is not improved by economic growth. Yet the impact of this pursuit of growth causes massive unsustainable environmental damages. So yeah, hello. Am I audible now?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, please give me 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Can I continue?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So let me now come to this. I would not say conflict, but there is a kind of contestation within sociology itself. I mean, what is the job of a sociologist? There is a group.
We have lost your audio again, Chandan.
Right. So there is a group of sociologists who believe that the job of sociologist is not to practice or give prescription but to analyze and observe and interpret. But as you have seen, right from the very beginning, right from Karl Marx, because he also believed in action, we had C. Wright Mills, the propounder of sociological imagination, who also believed in such action. So there is always a group of sociologists who have been highlighting this importance of action. So it's not necessarily, only interpreting or observing, but also acting or giving policy prescriptions. These are also important for sociologists. Now, one of the, modern sociologists who coins a term called public sociology, which is in much discussion these days. And the name of the sociologist is Michael Buruwe. And he believes that the goal of the civil society is goal of sociology is to take the standpoint of civil society. So sociologists are not to take side with the establishment, but they are to take side of the civil society. And he says that here the role of a sociologist is not like that of the political scientist and the economics. And because the political scientist takes the perspective of the state and economics will take the perspective of the economy. But sociologist has to take the standpoint, a sociologist has to take the standpoint of civil society. He identifies 4 kinds of sociological practices: critical sociology, policy sociology, public sociology, and professional sociology. The 4 knowledges are mutually dependent on or interdependent or inform one another. Critical sociology, he says, calls into question the assumptions made by professional sociologists like academicians. Policy sociologists who are practicing policy with the government base their information on the information generated from professional sociologists. Public sociologists take professional knowledge and disseminate it to publics. Public sociology can also learn from the experiences of their publics and base their research of their experience and therefore contribute to professional sociology. Buruwe also suggests that space for public sociology can be rescued, which is diminishing, by creating incentives for professional sociologists to support a vibrant public sociology and by raising awareness among professional sociologists that they have an interest in the maintenance of public sociologists. And very radically, he also says that sociologists can make the invisible visible by partaking in movements. He talks about social movements to provide understanding of why categories are not important. Certain categories are not important. Sociologists can also help provide the necessary frameworks to advance the goals of social movements. So therefore, these are very important ways in which sociology should perform. And the way the society is changing today, sociologists perhaps cannot remain oblivious to the changes and the demands of the time. Next slide, please. Let me now go to some names of some Indian sociologists, as we have all mentioned. Significance of sociology. Okay, but I think I had also names of some Indian sociologists mentioned, and they also have, and there are 3 generations of Indian sociologists that I have mentioned, and some of them, especially the later sociologists, some of them are also public sociologists today, very well-known public sociologists. 3 generations of sociologists. Anyway, now the significance of sociology now are already very clear. How sociology can contribute. Sociology studies society in a scientific way that we know, which help us better understand social institutions and behaviors. It can help us locating various complex social problems, finding out the magnitude of these problems, and finding out ways in solving this. Sociologists also plays an important role in formulating social policies, social welfare policies for the government. I have just mentioned the policy sociologists. That is their work. Sociologists play an important role also in defining various social categories such as caste, tribe, class, etc. And sometimes these classes are very important while state policies of the state are being formulated. And in India, we know how some of these terms create so much of problem. This because they are so sensitive. Then sociology also helps the individual to study and understand the various cultures and helps people to remove the prejudices and biases about other cultures. So this is also one contribution of sociology. If one studies sociology, then the person is supposed to benefit from this. Sociologists also provide a global perspective, as I have pointed out in the very beginning, because it ranges very wide from everyday interaction on the street to global phenomenon. And from that point of view, it also provides a global perspective on various social issues. And can I go to the next slide, please? Then sociology helps people understand the nuances of this point I have already mentioned, a multicultural society, and helps create a harmonious social environment. It can help provide commercial organizations also, as I have pointed out while discussing the concept of embeddedness of economic relations with social relations. Here, help commercial organizations about the needs of the society. Thus, the commercial activities such as production, distribution, etc., can be oriented according to the needs of a particular society. Sociological knowledge also has many, therefore, uses and benefits. And it's an emerging subject which has an important role to play in contemporary society. It can also help in social planning and in ushering a new social order. Now, let me go to the final slide, which is like the different career opportunities that sociology can offer today to a sociology graduate. The first obvious is teaching, but teaching of sociology is now, for example, in India, is not confined only to universities and colleges where the discipline is taught. This discipline is also compulsory today in different law colleges. It is taught in different technical engineering colleges. So the subject now is teaching very widely. Schools also teach this subject. So subject is now taught widely, and it is growing. Then a sociologist, because of his obvious capacity in understanding social issues and appreciating social problems, he can be a very good researcher. He can be part of any research organization working on social issues. Then works in development agencies and NGOs are always cut out for sociologists. Large number of sociologists are working in these agencies today. Social entrepreneurship is another. I can give you one example of social entrepreneurship. Everybody perhaps have heard of the Sulabh International, the organization which takes care of sanitation in different parts of India. It's a very well-known movement, Sulabh International. And the founding father of this organization is Bindeshwari Pathak, who is a sociologist. This is only one example of social entrepreneurship. There may be many other such actions. Then competitive examinations. Sociology is also very, popular discipline for administrative services, for competitive exams for administrative services. Then in corporate sector, there is a growing need of sociology. Sociology is one of the disciplines which also contributed to the emergence of management discipline. Management being an interdisciplinary subject, and in its initial phase and also much later, sociological theories also had a lot to contribute to the growth of management theories in management. And in corporate sector, therefore, whether as in the welfare domain or in corporate social responsibility, human relations, advertisement, and in management positions, sociologists also play, with their due specializations, of course, also can find employment opportunities. So these are different career opportunities that which are today available for sociology graduates or postgraduates, which yeah, maybe we can go to the next, or perhaps this is the end of the presentation. Yeah, that is the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for your patient hearing, and I would now be happy to take questions. This was more a kind of monologue, but I'll be happy if I can, if I get questions from the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. Thank you, Chandan. Sociology iman eta digholia history, digholia itihas, iman kom samoyar bhitorte iman sundor koi amar agot uposthapon korar karone Tezpur Biswabidyalor অধ্যাপক Chandan Kumar Sharmak 15 মিনিট শিক্ষাৰ তৰফৰ পৰা আন্তৰিক কৃতজ্ঞতা জ্ঞাপন কৰিছো। আমাৰ মাজত উপস্থিত থকা শিক্ষাৰ্থীসকলক অনুৰোধ জনাম তেখেতসকলে যাতে তেওঁলোকে যাতে প্ৰফেসৰ শৰ্মাক প্ৰশ্ন সোধে, তেওঁলোকৰ সুধিবলগীয়া প্ৰশ্নবোৰ তেখেতে বহুবিলাক কথা, বহুবিলাক ধাৰণা, বহুবিলাক তত্ত্ব সামৰি ইমান সুন্দৰকে এঘণ্টাতকৈ অলপ বেছি সময়ত কথাখিনি কবৰ চেষ্টা কৰিছে। বহু কথা হয়তো কব লাগিলে আৰু বহুত কথা কব লগা আছে। তেখেতে মাজতে ভাৰতবৰ্ষত sociological researcher যিটো ধাৰা সেই কথাটো অকমান কব কৈছিলে। মোৰ তেখেতৰ প্ৰতি এটা প্ৰশ্ন থাকিব পিছত যে তেখেতে সেই কথাটো অকমান কৈ দিলে ভাল হ'ব, কাৰণ তেখেতে দিল্লী বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ত পঢ়া শুনা কৰিছিল, দিল্লী বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ দিল্লী স্কুল অফ ইকনমিক্সত, আৰু তাত sociology ডিপাৰ্টমেন্ট যেটো আছিল তাত কেগৰাকীমান অতি আগশাৰীৰ ভাৰতীয় সমাজতত্ত্ববিদ আছিল। তেখেতসকলৰ পৰা তেওঁ sociologyৰ তালিম লৈছিল, গতিকে তেওঁ হয়তো খুব চমুকে হলেও সেই কথাখিনি অকমান ক'ব পাৰিব, সেইখিনি আশা ৰাখিম। তাৰ আগতে মই দুটামান ঘোষণা কৰিব খুজিছো। এটা হৈছে আমাৰ আজিৰ অনুষ্ঠানটোত আমাৰ সহযোগী মহাবিদ্যালয়বিলাক আছিল গুৱাহাটীৰ SB দেওৰা কলেজ, দুধনৈ কলেজ, কোকৰাঝাৰ গভৰ্ণমেণ্ট কলেজ, নগাঁও গাৰ্লছ কলেজ আৰু ডিমৰীয়া কলেজ। আজি আমি দেখিছো যে আমাৰ অংশগ্ৰহণকাৰীসকলৰ মাজত মহাপুৰুষ শ্ৰীমন্ত শংকৰদেৱ বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ বহু ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰী উপস্থিত আছে। তাৰ কাৰণে তেখেতসকলক ধন্যবাদ জ্ঞাপন কৰিছো। আমাৰ যেটো পৰৱৰ্তী অনুষ্ঠানটো অনুষ্ঠিত হ'ব এপ্ৰিলৰ 2 তাৰিখে। সেই 2 তাৰিখে আমাৰ অনুষ্ঠানত বক্তা হিচাপে উপস্থিত থাকিব জৰ্জিয়া ইউনিভাৰ্চিটিৰ ক্ৰিয়েটিভ ৰাইটিংৰ অধ্যাপক আৰুণী কাশ্যপ। তেখেতে ক্ৰিয়েটিভ ৰাইটিংৰ ওপৰত এটা বক্তৃতা দিব আৰু ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীসকলে তেওঁৰ সৈতে ভাৱ বিনিময় কৰা বা প্ৰশ্ন সোধাৰ সুবিধা পাব। গতিকে আমি আশা ৰাখিছো যে শিক্ষাৰ্থীসকল সেই অনুষ্ঠানটো উপস্থিত থাকিব। এতিয়া আমি প্ৰশ্নোত্তৰ শিতানলৈ যাম। প্ৰশ্নোত্তৰ শিতানত আমি জুমৰ chat boxত প্ৰশ্নসমূহ শিক্ষাৰ্থীসকলে পোষ্ট কৰিব পাৰে, বা যিসকলে ইউটিউব আৰু ফেচবুকত চাই আছে এই অনুষ্ঠানটো তেখেতসকলে এই প্লেটফৰ্মবোৰতো তেওঁলোকৰ প্ৰশ্নবিলাক সুধিব পাৰে। আমাৰ ইয়াত উপস্থিত থকা 15 মিনিট শিক্ষাৰ যিসকল সদস্য তেওঁলোকে এই প্ৰশ্নসমূহ অধ্যাপক চন্দন কুমাৰ শৰ্মালৈ আগবঢ়াই দিব। জুমত উপস্থিত থকা সকলে পোনপটীয়াকৈ তেখেতৰ প্ৰশ্ন সুধিব পাৰিব। গতিকে মই প্ৰশ্নোত্তৰ শিতানলৈ আগবাঢ়িছো পুনৰবাৰ অধ্যাপক চন্দন কুমাৰ শৰ্মাক আমাৰ তৰফৰ পৰা অশেষ ধন্যবাদ জ্ঞাপন কৰিছো
কৃষাণু কৌশিক তেখেতৰ এটা প্ৰশ্ন আছে আপুনি নিজে হয়তো প্ৰশ্নটো সুধি দিব পাৰে মই আপুনি সুধিব পাৰে কৃষাণু কৌশিক
হেল্ল' মই কৃষাণু কৌশিক মিচিগানৰ পৰা মিচিগান USA মই ভাবিছিলো অলপ ভাল হ'ব ষ্টুডেণ্ট সকলে আগতীয়াকে মই সমাজৰ মানুহ হিচাপে সুধিম ষ্টুডেণ্ট হিচাপে নহয় প্ৰথমতে thanks to the organizers for inviting you Chandan da and also thanks for explaining the vast subject of sociology in such a short period introducing us to the founding fathers of sociology so many eminent sociologists and also so many concepts iman kom form ভিতৰতে বুজাই দিলা কথাটো বঢ়িয়া মানে we are really we learned a lot so মোৰ প্ৰশ্নটো মানে এজন সিটিজেন হিচাপে এজন মানে অসমীয়া হিচাপে as not as a student of sociology মই so my question is ইংৰাজীতে সুধো ইংৰাজীতে লেখাটো দিলা কাৰণে what is the according to you what is the most significant social issue in today's Assam and what in your opinion can be a solution for that and or what is the standpoint of the civil society about that
yeah any jodi hello
শুনি আছো
নহয় এনেই যদি আমি ক'ব লাগে বোলে আমিতো সবেই কৈ থাকো ডেভেলপমেণ্টটোৱে ইছ্যু কিন্তু ডেভেলপমেণ্টটো আকৌ কেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ হ'ব লাগে মই এটা উদাহৰণস্বৰূপে কৈছো অসমৰ এটা মই ভাবো এটা খুব ডাঙৰ সমস্যাটো হ'ল যে আমাৰ শিক্ষাৰ প্ৰসাৰ অভাৱ বহুত লোক প্ৰকৃত শিক্ষা পোৱা নাই আৰু যিটো আজিকালি আমি কওঁ যে মানে যিটো শিক্ষা দৰকাৰী সেই ধৰণৰ শিক্ষা তেওঁলোকে পোৱা নাই বহুত জেগালৈ ভালকে আমাৰ স্কুল কলেজ নাই গতিকে তেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ এটা সমস্যা আমাৰ হৈছে আৰু এই সমস্যাটোৰ কাৰণেই আৰু অন্য বহুতো সমস্যাৰ উদ্ভৱ হৈছে সেইবিলাক মই হয়তো মানে উল্লেখ কৰিব পাৰো উদাহৰণস্বৰূপে বহুতে ক'ব এই ধৰক মানে পপুলেশ্যন গ্ৰোথ তাৰ লগত শিক্ষাৰ এটা ডাঙৰ সম্পৰ্ক আছে কি ধৰণৰ কাম কাজ তেওঁলোকে কৰিব এমপ্লয়মেন্ট অপৰচুনিটিজ শিক্ষা যদি নহয় সেই ধৰণৰ এমপ্লয়মেন্ট অপৰচুনিটি তেওঁলোকে পাব নোৱাৰে গতিকে মই ভাবো যে শিক্ষা যদি এক্সপানশন হয় বহুত সমস্যা মানে অটোমেটিক্যালি তাৰ সমাধান হয় মই সেইকাৰণে মই ভাবো যে এইটো এটা খুব ডাঙৰ বিষয় হেতুত সোশিয়োলজিষ্টে কন্ট্ৰিবিউট কৰিব নোৱাৰে সোশিয়োলজিষ্টে ক'বহে পাৰে যে এইটো এটা ডাঙৰ বিষয় আৰু মানে এই ক্ষেত্ৰত মই এটা কথা কম সোশিয়োলজিক্যাল ইমাজিনেশনৰ প্ৰসংগত আনি কম যে বহুতে কৈ থাকে মানুহে কাম নকৰে হি এলেহুৱা সেই কাৰণে এনেকুৱা অৱস্থা হৈছে বৰে স্কুলত ড্ৰপ আউট কৰি দিয়ে স্কুলৰ পৰা ড্ৰপ আউট কৰে পঢ়া শুনাত মন নাই ঘূৰি ফুৰে কিন্তু তাৰ এই কথাটো আমি কি কয় ওয়াইডাৰ যিটো সোশিয়াল প্ৰসেস সেই প্ৰসেসত যেতিয়া সেই পটভূমিত আমি নাচাওঁ তেতিয়ালৈকে এই কিয় এনেকুৱা হয় কিয় কোনোবা স্কুলৰ পৰা কিয় গুচি যায় কিয় স্কুলৰ শিক্ষা শেষ নকৰে কিয় ৰাস্তাত ঢিটিঙালি কৰি ঘূৰি ফুৰা বুলি কওঁ আমি কিয় কাম নকৰে বুলি কওঁ মানে আমি যেনেকুৱা কাম তেনেকে কৰিব পাৰে তেনেকুৱা কাম আমি দিছো নে নাই তেনেকুৱা পৰিৱেশ আমি সৃষ্টি কৰিছো নে নাই এইবিলাক এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ ডাঙৰ ষ্ট্ৰাকচাৰেল বিষয়ও থাকে মই ভাবো যে যিবিলাক মানুহে জেনেৰেলি সাধাৰণতে কৈ থাকে এইবিলাক হ'ল কমন সেন্সিক্যাল ধাৰণা যে অমুক এই কাৰণে হৈছে এইটো ঘটনা এই কাৰণে হৈছে এই কথাবিলাক আসলতে প্ৰায় দেখা যায় যে কমন সেন্সিক্যাল they are not rooted in sociological knowledge so সেইকাৰণে মই কৈছো যে এইবিলাক সমস্যা আমি যদি সোশিয়োলজিক্যাল মানে পটভূমিত চাওঁ তেতিয়াহলে তাৰ সমস্যাটোৰ বহুতো সমাধানৰ ৰাস্তাও পাম কিন্তু সোশিয়োলজিষ্ট এজনে এই সমাধানটো দিব নোৱাৰে সেইটোতো চৰকাৰেই দিব বা আমাৰ সমাজে তাৰ মানে সমাধানৰ ৰাস্তা উলিয়াব কিন্তু সোশিয়োলজিষ্ট এই কথাটো ক'ব পাৰে যে গোইং বিয়ন্ড দি কমন সেন্সিক্যাল আন্ডাৰষ্টেণ্ডিং অফ প্ৰবলেমছ sociologists can say that you see this is the problem that is not the problem that is only a manifestation of the problem's root lies somewhere else Kisanu, মই answer দিব পাৰিছো নে কথাটো ভিডিঅ'টো গ'ল হেৰিটো গ'ল নেকি
আপুনি ক'ব পাৰে
নহয় মই কৃষাণৰ আনসাৰটো দিলো নে
থ্যাংক ইউ মই মানে গম পালো যে মই মানে আনমিউট কৰিব পৰা নাছিলো এতিয়া ৰিফাতে
তাৰমানে মই এইটোৱে কৈছো যে বহুত সমস্যা
মানে lack of right
আমি
kind of
বহুত
that's the root cause
মানে আমি যিবিলাক এপাৰেন্ট সমস্যা সেইবিলাকক আমি ৰুট বুলি ভাবো প্ৰায় কিন্তু ৰুটটো আচলতে বেলেগ এইবিলাক হ'ল সুপাৰফিচিয়েল বস্তু মেনিফেষ্টেশ্যন অফ মাছ লাৰ্জাৰ প্ৰবলেমছ এই কথাটো
thank you দেই মানে root cause to hey lack of right kind of education etwe root cause বুলি sociology
education is very important মই ভাবো education expansion of education
thank you so much
Thank you নীলকমল বেলেগ আৰু প্ৰশ্ন আছে নেকি তুমি চাব পাৰিছা নেকি
মই এটা প্ৰশ্ন chat boxত দেখিছো দুটা প্ৰশ্ন
চাই দিয়ক আপুনি হ'ব
এটা মই তাৰমানে বহুত ক'বলগীয়া থাকি গ'লতো গতিকে আমাৰ হিৰণ্য নাথে এইটো ধুনীয়াকৈ প্ৰশ্ন এটা কৰি দিছে মই গতিকে ক'বলৈ সুবিধা পালো তেওঁ সুধিছে if we list 5 major social issues in Assam can the existing sociological concepts and theories adequately explain and help understand them হেইটো ক'বলৈ অলপ দিগদাৰ কিন্তু আজি যদি মই মানে কিছুমান ইমাৰ্জিং ডমেইনৰ কথা কৈ আছো দেই মই যে ধৰ আৰবান সোশিয়োলজিৰ কথা কলো ইমাৰ্জিং এটা কেনেকে হাউ ইট ৰেসপন্ডেড টু এন ইমাৰ্জিং আনফোল্ডিং সিচুৱেচন সেইদৰে এনভাইৰনমেন্টাল সোশিয়োলজি ৰেসপন্ডেড টু এন আনফোল্ডিং সিচুৱেচন ইন দ্য 70s similarly sociology of medical sociology বুলিও কয় বা হেলথ sociology of health and illness বুলিও কয় মানে এই সাবজেক্ট বিলাক ইমাৰ্জিং ডিসিপ্লিনস and they provide us with new insights into how to tackle these issues for example etia মানে কি বুলি কয় ডেভেলপমেন্ট যেটো আমি কওঁ ডেভেলপমেন্ট স্টাডিজ সে ফৰ এক্সাম্পল আমাৰ অসমত বহুত এটা ইনফ্ৰাষ্ট্ৰাকচাৰ প্ৰজেক্ট হৈছে দলং হৈছে আমাৰ অসমত কিবাখনো ডাঙৰ দলং হ'ল আমি সকলোৱে বিচাৰো দলং হোৱাটো কিন্তু এতিয়া দলংখন যেতিয়া হ'ল তাৰ বহুত সোশিয়োলজিক্যাল ৰিয়ালিটি হে সময়ত ইগনোৰ কৰা মই কেবাখনো দলং যিবিলাক দলঙে হয় দেখা যায় যে তাৰ দুই পাৰৰ মানুহ কিছু ডিসপ্লেস হয় আৰু কোনবিলাক মানুহ ডিসপ্লেস হয় আমি দেখা পাওঁ যে হয়তো মাছমৰীয়া সম্প্ৰদায় থাকে তাতে কোনোবা জনজাতীয় সম্প্ৰদায় থাকে বহুতৰ মাটিৰ পট্টা নাথাকে এই ধৰণৰ মানুহবিলাক ডিসপ্লেস হয় তেওঁলোকৰ এটা হ'ল লাইভলিহুড গুচি যায় তেওঁলোকৰ ধৰক আগতে নদীৰ নাও চলাইছিলে নদীৰ পৰা বালি সংগ্ৰহ কৰিছিলে কাঠ সংগ্ৰহ কৰিছিলে সেইবিলাক নাইকিয়া হয় আৰু তেওঁলোকে জায়গাৰ পৰা ডিসপ্লেস হৈ যায় কাৰণ মাটি তেওঁলোকৰ লৈ যোৱা হয় অধিগ্ৰহণ কৰে গতিকে যদি আমি সোশিয়োলজিক্যাল মোৰ কথাটো হৈছে সোশিয়োলজিয়ে এই কথাবিলাক হাইলাইট কৰে আৰু গতিকে এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ ডেভেলপমেন্টাল কাম কৰাৰ আগতে সোশিয়োলজিক্যাল নলেজটোৰ সহায় লোৱা উচিত কাৰণ সোশিয়োলজিষ্টে কি হয় এটা ডেভেলপমেন্টক এটা মনোলিথিক বা হেই হিচাপে নাচায় এটা এন্টিটি বা এটা ধাৰণা হিচাপে নাচায় কনসেপ্ট হিচাপে তাৰ এটো চাই যে দলংখন বনোৱাটো খুবেই ভাল কথা কিন্তু হাউ দি ক্ৰস সেকশন অফ দ্য পিপল in the society caste tribe class gender how different communities different strata different groups of people in the society have benefited or have been adversely affected sociologists he kotha to kobo pare if a kind of survey is made where sociological inputs are asked similar enekwa dhoroner আৰু বহুতো ইস্যু আছে আজি মই ফৰ এক্সাম্পল আমাৰ হেৰিৰ কথা কৈ আছো সোশিয়োলজি অফ হেলথ এণ্ড ইলনেছৰ কথা কৈ আছো যে আমাৰ সদায় এটা মেডিকেল এপ্ৰোচ থাকে which is nothing wrong কিন্তু সমাজত এখন সমাজে মানে এই মেডিকেল এপ্ৰোচটো কেনেকৈ ল'ব সেই কথাটো আমি বুজিবলৈ সেই সোশিয়াল কনটেক্সটটো জানিব লাগে আমি সাধাৰণ এটা উদাহৰণ দিওঁ ফৰ এক্সাম্পল আজি আমাৰ এজন সাধাৰণ শিক্ষিত মানুহৰ আমাৰ নিচিনা মানুহৰ যদি 101 ডিগ্ৰী জ্বৰ হয় আমি প্ৰায় মানে ঘৰত সোমাই থাকো মানে our understanding of the disease কিন্তু ডেইলি মজদুৰ কৰা যিজন মানুহ তেওঁ কিন্তু 100 ডিগ্ৰী বা 101 ডিগ্ৰী জ্বৰত তেওঁ ঘৰত বহি নাথাকে তেওঁৰ কাৰণে তেওঁ যদি ঘৰত বহি থাকে তেওঁৰটো ইনকামটো নহব বা তেওঁ যদি আজি বজাৰত গৈ কিবা খুচুৰা বিক্ৰী কৰি দুমুঠা উঠি তেওঁ মানে খাই আছে তেওঁ যদি বজাৰলৈ যাব নোৱাৰে তেওঁৰ সেই উপাৰ্জন নাথাকিলে তেওঁ দুবলা দুমিঠি খাব নোৱাৰিব সেই মানুহজনৰ কাৰণে কিন্তু এই যে বেমাৰটো একেই কিন্তু তাৰ আন্ডাৰষ্টেণ্ডিং of the disease is different মই যদি বুজাব পাৰিছো কথাটো গতিকে sociological যেতিয়া ইনপুট লয় আমি প্ৰায় দেখা পাওঁ বহুত ধৰণৰ সমস্যাৰ সমাধানত আমাৰ ইনপুট বিলাক খুব আমাৰ কামটো খুব এপ্ৰোচটো ক্লিনিক্যাল হয় কিন্তু এপ্ৰোচটো যদি সোশ্যাল হয় বা sociological হয় perhaps মানে more inroads into the societies towards fulfilling the desired goals of us perhaps or that society perhaps can be made.
Can I say something to Chandan on this context?
Yeah.
Apni mane etu ki medical science or logot related sociology kotha koise. I think hetu kotha apni jothesho guruttopurno kotha eta koise. Moi nije chikitsak hisabe moi upolobdhi koribo parichu karon I think apni jodi covid pandemic or loi sai if you say that this is a failure in general of sorry
yeah
medical science and society নহয় জানো ধৰক এটা স্মল কথা যে মানে এটো কি কয় মাস্ক পিন্ধিব লাগে সেই a simple measure to reach the society it took such a long time across all over the world karon মানে there is a disconnect between the medical science and the society so otherwise I think মানে এটা iman covid related problem whole that there is I feel that lot of problem is because of the disconnect between medical science and the society apni bhabe na kotha to
true it's just you see the very fact that so many people refuse to take vaccine
right
that happened not here that happened in the advanced countries also right so there has definitely been certain disconnect certain mistrust and these issues perhaps can be addressed by understanding the context or you cannot altogether ignore such social context if you are to succeed in fulfilling your objectives which is of course I mean vaccination is important but people think otherwise they have certain other doubts they think these goes against their some traditional beliefs perhaps and so on and so forth so how you tackle these issues so a mere medical clinical approach perhaps or coercing will not what should I say give the desired result we have to take a different approach
I totally agree there is a bigger social issue here that that apni jehetu koise mane medical sociology kotha je medical advancement is important medical inventions are important but at the same time I mean it is also the role of people inside the medical community that they try to reach out to the society and at large that how they should embrace this the new changes or new concepts or modern things in medicine no thank you so much aru eta aru ejon proshno khudibo khuji
ase you have
জামিনী বুঢ়াগোহাঁইৰ এটা প্ৰশ্ন আছে মই তেখেতক পোনপটীয়াকৈ সুধিবলৈ কৈছো মই আনমিউট কৰি লওক জামিনী বুঢ়াগোহাঁই
ইভিনিং স্যার
হয় গুড ইভিনিং
স্যার আপুনি আপুনি এটা স্টেটমেন্ট দিছিলে যে কমন য'ত আপুনি কমন সেন্স আৰু সোশিয়োলজিক্যাল নলেজৰ লগত মানে ৰিলেশন এটা আনিবলৈ চেষ্টা কৰিছিলে যে ইট ইজ কমন সেন্স দ্যাট অলসো ক্যান এড টু সোশিয়োলজিক্যাল নলেজ কিন্তু স্যার আমি জানো যে আমাৰ হিউম্যান কমন সেন্সটো বহুতখিনি বায়াসেস আছে আমাৰ সুপারস্টিশিয়াস বিলিফ আছে তো সেই biases খিনিৰ পৰা আমি কেনেকে আমি যদি কিবা sociological knowledge derive কৰিব চেষ্টাও কৰোঁ সেইখিনিৰ problem নাথাকিব নেকি আৰু স্যাৰ 2 নম্বৰ প্ৰশ্ন এটা আছিলে social scienceৰ ভিতৰত sociology as a discipline আৰু বাকি social science মই political science পঢ়াও তো political science apni Karl Marx or reference to this Karl Marx ami political science or theories hisabe use koru apni Wilfred Pareto kotha koise teketor economics to use kore amaru elite theory political elite theory so a line dal code draw koribo pari je they belong to one specific discipline or ami beleg eta discipline hoy thank you sir
thank you Thank you for the question. Prothom kotha to hoise je moi prothomote common sense aru sociology code different beleg moi to kolu je common sense to a particular intuitive presumptive stereotype knowledge right sociology into empirical evidence based objective knowledge so there is a difference agotike bahut sociologist এইটো একদম খুব meticulously এই difference to মানি চলে কিন্তু মই এই কথাটোৱে কৈছো যে sometimes even common sense can also complement sociological knowledge for example common sense can help us formulate a hypothesis to common sense কিন্তু whether that hypothesis is proved correct or not সেইটো to এটা ষ্টাডিয়ে প্ৰমাণ কৰিব কিন্তু এই কমন সেন্সিক্যাল যেটো নলেজ বুলি কৈছো কমন সেন্স টুৱে এটা হাইপোথিসিস বিল্ড কৰি সেই বস্তুটো ষ্টাডি কৰিবৰ কাৰণে এজন সোশিয়োলজিষ্টক মানে বাধ্য কৰাৰ নিচিনা হল বাট কথাটো ধৰিব পাৰিছানে গটিকে হাইপোথিসিস বিল্ডিংৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত আৰু তেনেকুৱা বহুত কমন সেন্সিক এই যে মই আজি কলো কমন সেন্সিক্যাল ইস্যু আমাৰ কিয় অমুকে কাম নকৰে অসমীয়া মানুহে কাম নকৰে এই কথাটো যে প্ৰায় কৈ থকা হয় whether it is a common sensical thing or it's really it's based on sociological understanding এই কথাটো গটিকে মই ভাবো যে this is more common sensical it's not based on sociological understanding okay আৰু কিয় আপুনি যদি খুধে মই তাৰ উত্তৰ দিম তো এনেকুৱা কথাবিলাক কিন্তু মই এইটো কথাও কৈছো যে এই কথাবিলাক এই যে কলে কাম নকৰে এই যে কলে স্কুললৈ নাযায় এই কলে ৰাস্তাত ঘূৰি ফুৰে কাম মানে এই কথাবিলাক কিয় হৈছে মানুহে সাধাৰণতে কয় এলেহুৱা ই বদমাস ই পঢ়া-শুনা নকৰে ইত্যাদি পঢ়া-শুনাত মন নাই কিন্তু ইয়াৰ বেলেগ আৰু সোশ্যাল কাৰণ থাকিব পাৰে কিন্তু এই যেটো আমাৰ কমন সেন্সিক্যাল ধাৰণা সেই কমন সেন্সিক্যাল ধাৰণাই হয়তো মোক সোশিয়োলজিষ্ট এজনক প্ৰেৰিত কৰিব পাৰে যে নহয় let me study this and find out আৰু যেটো কমন সেন্সিক্যাল ধাৰণা হৈ যাব হাইপোথিসিস মোৰ ষ্টাডিত হেতু হয় প্ৰুভ হ'ব পাৰে কমন সেন্স টু সোশিয়োলজিক্যাল নলেজ হৈ যাব পাৰে কিন্তু হেতু নহবও পাৰে ৰাইট তাৰ পিছত মই আৰু এটা কথা কলো যে ডিফাৰেন্ট থিওৰিজৰ কথা আজি পোষ্টমডাৰ্নিজমে তেওঁলোকে মানে
but I still can't open they have opened me
sociological knowledge আৰু common sensical knowledgeৰ মাজৰ কোনো পাৰ্থক্য তেওঁলোকে নাৰাখে কাৰণ সকলোৱে নলেজ সকলোৰে ভয়েস সমান হেতু তেওঁলোকে স্বীকৃতি দিয়ে so they do not privilege one knowledge over the other আৰু যেটো আপুনি পিছৰ কোৱেশ্চনটো ক'লে এটো কি আছিল এই যে see this is the greatness of these philosophers you see or thinkers আৰু এটা কথা আগতে তো মানে সবৰ সকলোৰে কথা বতৰা বিলাক ইন্টাৰডিসিপ্লিনাৰী আছিল হেতু এটা আছেই কথা কিন্তু তাৰ পিছতো যে আজি ওয়েবাৰ তো আসলতে তেওঁ দৰাচলতে ইকনমিষ্ট আছিল যদিও তেওঁ সোশিয়োলজিৰ কাম বেছি তো ওয়েবাৰটো আপোনাৰ মেনেজমেন্টটো লাগে পলিটিক্যাল সায়েন্সটো ইউজ হয় আৰবান ষ্টাডিজটো হয় সবতে ব্যৱহাৰ কৰা হয় ওয়েবাৰ Durkheim's concept of suicide is also very important okay or his concept of religion his concept of primitive classification these are very important concepts which are important for other disciplines as well so let us not make draw a boundary of their contributions their works are of interdisciplinary nature. আৰু আজিহে আমাৰ মানে ডিসিপ্লিনাৰী হেৰিটো অলপমান বেলেগ হৈ গৈছে, কিন্তু তেওঁলোকে কাম কৰোঁতে তেওঁলোকৰ গোটেই ধ্যান ধাৰণাবিলাক বহুত বেলেগ আছে। গতিকে মোৰ কথাটো হৈছে কি, তেওঁলোক ইকনমিষ্ট নে পলিটিকেল সায়েন্টিষ্ট নে হিষ্ট্ৰিয়ান নে ৱেবাৰক আপুনি হিষ্ট্ৰিয়ান বুলিও ক'ব পাৰে, কাৰণ তেওঁ এনচিয়েন্ট মানে আমাৰ চিটিখন যেতিয়া লিখিছিলে তেতিয়া তেওঁ পুৰণা মানে ৱেষ্টাৰ্ণ চিটি আৰু ইষ্টাৰ্ণ চিটিৰ কম্পেৰিজন কৰিছে। তেওঁ পুৰণা ভাৰতৰ ধৰ্ম মানে আপোনাৰ জাপানৰ ধৰ্ম, চীনৰ ধৰ্ম, ইউৰোপৰ ধৰ্মৰ মাজত কম্পেৰিজন কৰিছে। এইবিলাক তেওঁ তেতিয়া পুৰণা এইটো হিষ্ট্ৰিকেল এপ্ৰ'চ লৈছে, তেওঁৰ এপ্ৰ'চটো হিষ্ট্ৰিকেলি। গতিকে এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ আপোনাৰ আপুনি দেখা পাম যে এই বাউণ্ডেৰীৰ যিটো কনষ্ট্ৰেইনছ, সেইটোৱে এই মানুহবিলাকক আবদ্ধ কৰি নাৰাখে। গতিকে লেট us not be concerned about that. আমাক যদি মোৰ ডিসিপ্লিনত কাৰোবাৰ কামত কোনোবা এজন থিয়ৰিষ্টৰ কামত আহিছে, তেতিয়াহ'লে আমি তেওঁক ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিম, সেইটোৱে কথা।
ধন্যবাদ প্ৰফেসৰ শৰ্মা। বিজয় লক্ষ্মী ব্ৰাৰা, তেখেতৰ এটা প্ৰশ্ন আছে বোধহয়, প্লিজ গো এহেড।
তেখেতে সুধিব পাৰে, মই আনমিউট কৰি দিছো।
হয় হয়, হাই।
The host unmuted. Hello.
Hello,
Yes.
hi Vijayalakshmi. Hi.
Hi, Professor Chandan. How are you? It was such a
surprised to see you here.
Anyway, you are there, I'm there. I'm your fan.
Thank you.
The thing is, yeah, in fact, I've never heard, such a brilliant lecture in such few minutes and concising the whole of sociology. It's a very difficult task which you have accomplished today, and I must congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
But nevertheless, my ongoing trouble is that, we keep saying Auguste Comte, the father of sociology and all. But Auguste Comte himself had very, very biased view about women. We all know that. He actually said that they are incapable of governance and things like that. So I stand today to contest Auguste Comte as the father of sociology. And with leading to that is my question that, I've written it also here in the chat box, that in the whole lecture, I know it's difficult, but in the whole lecture, not a single woman sociologist was mentioned by you. And don't you think it's high time? We are talking today about people-centric approach in sociology. You also concluded like that, the people sociology. But people involve women, and not a single. When do we start mainstreaming women sociologists? When do we do that? I'm really tired of Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer, Durkheim, Marx, Weber. That's it, finish. And then of course sometimes we have post-structuralists and all. But there have been Dorothy Smiths. There have been Patricia Collins. There have been various other women sociologists who have done tremendous work, but somehow sociology has been a very, very, I'm sorry to say this, a very, very patriarchal discipline till now, and it's high time we start breaking that thing, So what's your take on this?
Thank you, Vijayalakshmi. Let me just Professor, let me just respond to this. You were very correct, and we can also say that Kant was a repressive father. And that is why none of his actually theories and concepts are in currency today. But since I have to give the trajectory of the discipline, the development of the discipline I gave. However, I think you have missed, I mentioned Saskia Sassen, her global city, and
actually probably maybe that's where the audio went off.
No, the slide was also, Saskia Sassen's slide was there. But what happened, I mentioned 4 generations of Indian sociologists, from Ghuriye, Srinivas to, then Ghuriye, Srinivas, Radha Kamal Mukherjee, and that generation. that Andre Bete, Jogendra Singh, that generation, then Bharjinias Khaka, Dipankar Gupta, that generation, and the fourth generation, you won't believe. I mentioned three lady sociologists. Hello, yes, you see?
Yes. Amita Bhaviskar, Nandini Sundar, Sharmila. Yeah.
See, I have mentioned.
And on a light-hearted manner, you forgot to mention me.
Huh?
On a light-hearted manner, you forgot to mention me.
I could have also mentioned, yes. I was also thinking about myself. No, what gave me art was, see, these three names just came to me spontaneously. So earlier generations, we always saw male sociologists. But, it seems that women sociologists are also, they are taking over. Somebody may find some bias in the naming of these sociologists here, but I have no bias to my mind. I have very neutrally mentioned these names. I have collected these names very neutrally and represented. And see Saskia Sassen, Global City.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
And
And see, these are very select names.
I missed them, sorry, yeah.
No, these are very select names. I could have mentioned more, and because it is not possible to mention everybody, that is why I tried to give the main trajectory. And this can always be contested. Like people like Rosa Luxemburg, for example, Clara Zetkin, these are also sociologists on their own rights. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There is a question from Parthajyoti Das. Parthada, you can unmute yourself.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Partha. Yeah, hello. Hello.
No. As usual, boy, tomorrow lecture to Hudilu. As usual, it was an excellent overview. More kind of more kind of learning opportunity. মই যেটো কথা অবতাৰটা কৰিব খুজিছো হেতু হল যে মই যদি নিজৰ উদাহৰণে লওঁ I was never a student of officially or institutionally never a student of sociology কিন্তু মোৰ বৃত্তিগত কাৰণত আৰু নিজৰ ইন্টাৰেষ্টৰ কাৰণে মই এখন পঢ়াশোনা কৰি লৈছো আৰু তোমালোকৰ দৰে কিছু ব্যক্তিৰ সান্নিধ্যটো বহু কথা শিকিছো এতিয়া মই কৈছো যে sociology বহুখিনি approach and methodology ইমানেই সাৰ্বজনীন হৈ গৈছে ইন্টাৰডিসিপ্লিনাৰী হৈ গৈছে যে আমি we can't do without that এটা মই যদিও মানে এফালৰ পৰা একদম হাৰ্ডকোৰ নেচাৰেল সায়েন্স এনভাইৰনমেন্টাল সায়েন্সৰ পৰা আহি এতিয়া মই যিখন ক্ষেত্ৰত বিচৰণ কৰিছো সেইটো আসলতে টু সাম এক্সটেন্ট এনভাইৰনমেন্টাল সোশিয়োলজি বুলিয়ে ক'ব পাৰি বা আজিকালি মই দেখিছো কিছু সংখ্যক সোশিয়াল সায়েন্টিষ্টে আমি কৰা কামবিলাকক এনভাইৰনমেন্টাল সোশিয়াল সায়েন্স বুলি কৈছে এটা এটা নতুন টাৰ্ম মানে নতুন বিশেষকে এনভাইৰনমেন্টাল ইকোনমিক্স বা তেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ বহুতে আজিকালি হেতু ইউজ কৰে এতিয়া দেখা গ'ল যে সোশিয়োলজিৰ বহুখিনি কথা আমি জানিলে আমাৰ বেসিক্স খিনি জানিলে আমাৰ কামত সুবিধা হয় মই উদাহৰণ দি দীঘলীয়া নকৰো গতিকে মোৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত বাৰু কিছু পৰিমাণে মোৰ অলপ সুবিধা হৈছে মই কৰবাত অলপ শিকাৰ সুবিধা পালো অকম আগ্ৰহ আছে কাৰণে মই পঢ়াশোনা কৰি থাকো কিন্তু আমাৰ নতুন ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীসকলে যিবোৰ সোশ্যাল সায়েন্সৰ পৰাই নহয় এতিয়া ইঞ্জিনিয়াৰিংৰ ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীকো তুমি নিজে উল্লেখ কৰিছা এতিয়া বহুখিনি ইঞ্জিনিয়াৰিং টেকনলজি ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰী এটা সোশ্যাল ওয়াৰ্কত ৰিসাৰ্চ কৰে বা এনভাইৰনমেন্টাল সোশিয়োলজিত সেই ক্ষেত্ৰখনত গৱেষণা কৰে তেওঁলোকে এইবোৰ প্ৰয়োগ কৰিব লগা হয় গতিকে আমাৰ এনেকুৱা কিবা সুবিধা আছে নেকি য'ত এই বেসিক কথাখিনি sociology and sociological methods including methods of social work সেইখিনি এটা প্ৰফেশনালি মানে শিকিব পৰাৰ সুবিধা আছে নেকি কম দিনৰ ভিতৰতে আৰু আছে যদি তেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ কোট আছে মই এতিয়াও অলপ মানে আনুষ্ঠানিকভাৱে শিকিবলৈ আগ্ৰহী হম
তেনেকুৱাটো মই আসলতে কি হয় এই শৰ্ট টাৰ্ম কোৰ্স বুলি বস্তু এটা কৰিবলৈ বৰ দিগদাৰ এইবিলাক আৰু এই কথাবিলাক মানে এই অনলাইন এডুকেশ্যনৰে শিকাটো কিমান মিনিংফুল হয় ক'বলৈ দিগদাৰ আৰু একচুয়ালি দিস ইজ মোৰ এ মেটাৰ অফ প্ৰেক্টিস তুমিয়ে মই একেলগে কাম কৰিছো ধৰাচোন তুমি হাবি জংগলতো বেলেগ জায়গাতো এতিয়াতো প্ৰায় আমি এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ বহুত সোশিয়োলজিক্যাল ইস্যু আমি ফেস কৰো আৰু কেনেকে এনভায়ৰনমেন্ট এটো কয় এনভায়ৰনমেন্টাল সোশিয়াল ডায়ালেক্টিক আৰু তাৰ মাজত যেটো ক্লোজ সম্পৰ্ক সেইটো আমি বিভিন্ন ক্ষেত্ৰত দেখা পাওঁ গতিকে কিন্তু মানে এইটোটা প্ৰ্যাকটিছটোৱে আমাক বহুত কথা শিকায় যেটোৱে থিওৰিটো হয়তো আৰু সোনকালে বুজিবলৈ আমাক সহায় কৰিব এটো মই ভাবো যে তেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ শৰ্ট টাৰ্ম কোৰ্সৰ কথা মই তেনেকে নাজানো কিন্তু নিজে পঢ়াশোনা কৰি আৰু কথা বতৰা পাতিয়ে শিকিব পাৰি এইবিলাক দিস ইজ নট এ ৰকেট সায়েন্স আৰু মই ভাবো যে উইথ ইওর এক্সপেৰিয়েন্স it is not a difficult thing for you at all.
মই অকনমান মানে মই কৈছো যে মই বহুত দিন আগৰ পৰা অলপ সুবিধা পাইছো কাৰণে মই সেইটো কৰিছো কিন্তু নতুন ল'ৰা-ছোৱালী বিলাকৰ মই এনে কথাটো কৈছো যে এনভায়ৰনমেন্টাল সোশিয়োলজি যেটো এখন স্পেশাল পেপাৰ আজিকালি সাগে তোমালোকৰ তেজপুৰ ইউনিভাৰ্চিটিৰ সাগে স্পেশাল পেপাৰ বা বাকি বহুতো স্পেশাল পেপাৰ এনভায়ৰনমেন্টাল সোশিয়োলজিৰ মডিউল মই মানে বহুখিনি টেক্সট বুকৰ বা ইউনিভাৰ্চিটি কৰি প্লে চাইছো যে আমাৰ ইয়াং যিখিনি আমাৰ ডেভেলপমেন্ট ওয়াৰ্কাৰ যিবিলাকে আমাৰ বিভিন্ন সিভিল সোসাইটিত কাম কৰিছে এনভায়ৰনমেন্টাল সোশিয়াল ওয়ার্কত কাম কৰিছে তেওঁলোকৰ কাৰণে খুব উপকাৰী গতিকে তেনে ধৰণৰ এটা ক্যাপসুল কোৰ্স যদি অকল এনভায়ৰনমেন্টাল সোশিয়োলজিৰে তাত্ত্বিক দিশটো আৰু তাৰ মানে প্ৰায়োগিক দিশটো কৰি পেলাই কৰিব পৰা যায় তেতিয়া হলে আমাৰ ইয়াং জেনাৰেশনৰ কাৰণে কিন্তু বহুত কামত আহিব
না পাৰি আচ্ছা না সেইটো কৰিব পাৰি আৰু আসলতে সঁচা কথা ক'ব গলে মানে ধৰা মানে এটা 7টাৰ পৰা 10টা লেকচাৰ should be enough to introduce somebody to the basic ideas of environmental sociology সেইটো কৰিব পাৰি আৰু তাৰ পিছত প্ৰ্যাকটিছে বহুত কথা শিকাব বেলেগ থিওৰি পঢ়ি থাকিব পিছত কিন্তু বেসিক যিখিনি টেনিটস আছে মই ভাবো যে 7টাৰ পৰা 10টা লেকচাৰ should be enough.
What we will be happy to host that Sandanda and
somebody is supposed to look for.
If you come up with a plan, we can host those lectures.
Supposed to look for.
মই আৰু এটা মন্তব্য কৰি মই সামৰিছো বাৰু মই মানে জাস্ট এটো খুব ৰেলেভেন্ট হ'ব মই এবাৰ অসমৰ বাহিৰত ক'বাত কিবা এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ কাম কৰো যেটো তুমি জানা সেই লাইনতে মই মানে আমাৰ যিবোৰ এনভায়ৰনমেন্টাল আমাৰ প্ৰবলেম আমি এনালাইসিস কৰো যেনেকে তেনেকে কৈ থাকোতে
হেল্ল
মানে হেল্ল শুনিছানে
শুনিছো
মই মানে অসমৰ কিছু এনভায়ৰনমেন্টাল প্ৰবলেম ইস্যু অলপ হাইড্ৰলজিক্যাল কথা বতৰা মই যেটো কৰো সাধাৰণতে তেনেকে মই থাকোতে somebody introduced me as a socio-hydrologist মই মানে বিৰাট ভাল পালো টাৰ্মটো শুনি পেলাই বুঝছ না বহুত বছৰ আগৰ কথা তো মানুহৰ তেনেকেও সেইটো এটা খুব ইম্পৰ্টেন্ট কথা তেওঁ মানে কৈছে যে you are applying hydrological knowledge to address social
since your net is unstable
আজি ভালকে নুখুলিলা চাগে নহয় হেল্ল
আমি শুনি আছো আপোনাক মেবি I think Chandan কিবা প্ৰবলেম হ'ব পাৰে নেকি
সদায় নুশুনিলা চাগে মোৰ কথাটো ঠিক আছে বাৰু মই দীঘলীয়া নকৰো মই কেতিয়াবা তোমাক বাৰু কম ব্যক্তিগতভাৱে লগ পালে ঠিক আছে মোৰ শেষ হৈছে ৰিফাত ইউ ক্যান মিউট মি
ধৰ্মেন্দ্ৰ দা কিবা খুদিব খুদি আছে
চন্দন মোক শুনিছানে ধৰ্মেন্দ্ৰ
নাই চন্দনৰ প্ৰবলেম আছে কিবা এটা
ওকে এনে মই একো খুদিব খোজা নাই জাস্ট হাই ক'ব কৈছিলো চন্দনক এটো খুব ভাল প্ৰেজেন্টেশন হৈছে and unfortunately neither Dibrugad University sociology আছে in the UG level but in Guwahati University neither the university nor the government is interested in introducing sociology as a subject at the UG level so বেছিভাগ কলেজতে নাই এটি ইমান এটা ভাইব্ৰেন্ট ডাইনামিক সাবজেক্ট এটা আৰু চন্দনে ইমান সুন্দৰকৈ বুজাই দিলে মই নিজে বহুত কথা শুনিছো শিকিছো গতিকে I think audio is lost okay anyway Chandan খুব ভাল হৈছে লেকচাৰটো and hopefully we will organize something later thank you
thank you Dharmendra I think Chandan we lost him maybe we will have to wait for him to join কুলেন তুমি কিবা ক'ব খুজি আছিলা নেকি?
মই ক'ব খুজিছিলো চন্দন দেখোন নাই এতিয়া।
We can
Again,
continue the discussion, no?
yeah. Let's start.
will come
You
back.
can say, Kulen, go ahead.
Kulen, আমাকে ক'ব পাৰা।
হেৰি মই মানে ক'ব খুজিছিলো কি যে আমাৰ এতিয়া ধৰক জনসংখ্যাৰ যিটো সমস্যা হৈ আছে, আমাৰ মানে জনসংখ্যাটো যথেষ্ট বাঢ়িলে, এতিয়াতো এনেকুৱা হৈছে যে চাইনাতকে ইণ্ডিয়া আগবাঢ়ি গ'ল বা যাব অতি সোনকালে, এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ কথা এটা হৈ আছে। গতিকে এইটো ক্ষেত্ৰত মানে আমাৰ এটা কথা কোৱা হয় যে আমাৰ ভাৰতবৰ্ষৰ যিটো জনসংখ্যা সেইটো তাৰ সৰহখিনিয়ে য়াং জেনেৰেশ্যন বা আমাৰ এটা খুব ভাল ডেমোগ্ৰাফিক ডিভিডেণ্ট এটা আছে। কিন্তু এই ডেমোগ্ৰাফিক ডিভিডেণ্ট থাকিলেও আমি কিন্তু সেই ডেমোগ্ৰাফিক ডিভিডেণ্টৰ সুবিধা আচলতে ল'ব পৰা নাই, প্ৰথম কথাটো। দ্বিতীয় কথাটো সেইকাৰণে মানুহে কৈ থাকে যে আমাক এখন জনসংখ্যা নীতি এখন লাগে, খুব ষ্ট্ৰিক্ট এখন জনসংখ্যা নীতি লাগে য'ত আমি জনসংখ্যাটো নিয়ন্ত্ৰণ কৰিব পাৰোঁ। আৰু জনসংখ্যাটো যদি নিয়ন্ত্ৰণ কৰিব পৰা নাযায় তেতিয়াহ'লে আমাৰ বিভিন্ন বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণৰ সমস্যা, সামাজিক সমস্যাই দেখা দিয়ে। গতিকে মই আচলতে চন্দনদাক সুধিব খুজিছিলোঁ এইটো কথাই যে এই ক্ষেত্ৰত মানে আমি কি কৰিব লাগে। এখন জনসংখ্যা নীতি অসমৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত এখন সৰুকে জনসংখ্যা নীতি এখন অনা হৈছিলে যোৱা বছৰ পঞ্চায়ত ইলেকশ্যনৰ আগে যে সৰুকে এখন যে 2টাতকৈ বেছি বাচ্চা যদি জন্ম হয় তেতিয়াহ'লে তেওঁ পঞ্চায়ত ইলেকশ্যন খেলিব নোৱাৰে। কিন্তু সেইখনকে আমি এখন বহল পৰিসৰত আমি বিভিন্ন মানুহে, মই যিবিলাক মানুহৰ লগত কথা পাতি থাকোঁ তেওঁলোকে এই কথাবোৰ কয় যে অকণ বহল পৰিসৰত সেইখনকে গোটেই অসমৰ কাৰণে বা গোটেই ভাৰতবৰ্ষৰ কাৰণে প্ৰযোজ্য কৰিব পৰা নাযায় নেকি। আৰু যদি তেনেকুৱা এটা সমস্যা বা তেনেকুৱা এখন যদি আইন এখন যদি অনা যায় তেতিয়াহ'লে তাৰ সামাজিক কথাবোৰ কেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ হ'ব, সেই কথাটো মই সুধিব খুজিছিলোঁ আচলতে। এতিয়া চন্দন নাই, এতিয়া কি কয়।
আহিলে, আই থিংক চন্দন দা মই দেখিছোঁ। চন্দন দা আপুনি আছেনে?
হিৰণদা
ৰিফাত অকমান লেগ আছে নেকি?
কুলেন,
হিৰণদা কওকচোন।
মই মোৰ পাৰ্সপেক্টিভটো দিব পাৰোঁ, কিন্তু মানে
হয়।
চন্দনে ক'লে বেছি ভাল হ'ব। মোৰ কথা মই ভাবোঁ যে আমি যেতিয়া ইকনমিক্সত কওঁ যে সেইটো অকমান মানে এই এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ নীতিবিলাকৰ, ধৰা চৰকাৰী চাকৰি নেপাব যদি বেছি ল'ৰা ছোৱালী জন্ম দিয়ে বা পঞ্চায়ত ইলেকশ্যন খেলিব নোৱাৰিব, এনেকুৱা নীতিবিলাকৰ এটা শ্বৰ্ট টাৰ্ম হেৰি থাকিব পাৰে, কিন্তু লং টাৰ্মত মোৰ মতেৰে তেনেকুৱা নীতিবিলাক মানে চীনত যিটো হৈছে তেনেকুৱাই আল্টিমেটলি হ'বগে। মানে পেনালাইজ কৰা হয় নহয়, মানে ইনচেন্টিভটো এনেকুৱাকে ক্ৰিয়েট কৰা হয় যিটোৱে মানে পেনালাইজ কৰে মানুহবিলাকক। তাতকে আমি যিটো কওঁ যে মানুহবিলাকক যদি শিক্ষিত কৰা যায়, মানুহবিলাকক যদি জনসংখ্যাৰ এই সমস্যাটোৰ পৰা মানে গ্ৰাছৰুটৰ পৰা এৱেৰ কৰা যায়, তেনেকুৱা যদি কাম কিছুমান, তাত অৱশ্যে চৰকাৰ বুলিয়েই নহয়, চিভিল ছ'চাইটি বা যিবিলাক মানে NGO আছে সেইবিলাকৰ ডাঙৰ একোটা ভূমিকা থাকে। মোৰ বোধেৰে আৰু যিটো অমৰ্ত্য সেনে কৈ থাকে যে আমাৰ মহিলাসকলক শিক্ষা দীক্ষা দিব লাগে, কাৰণ সমস্যাটো তাতে আৰম্ভ হয়। তেওঁলোকক এম্পাৱাৰ কৰিব লাগে, কৰিলেই জনসংখ্যাৰ সমস্যাটো বহু পৰিমাণে মানে যিটো আচল যিটো তাৰ কাৰণ, সেই কাৰণটো মানে আমি ইণ্টাৰভিন কৰিব পাৰিম বুলি কোৱা হয়। আৰু এতিয়া বাংলাদেশৰ কথাটো হৈছে কি, বাংলাদেশত কিছুমান ষ্টাডিজত দেখুওৱা হৈছে যে মহিলাক এম্পাৱাৰ কৰাৰ ফলত বহু পৰিমাণে তেওঁলোকৰ জনসংখ্যাৰ বৃদ্ধি, যদিও তেওঁলোকৰ জনসংখ্যা বহুত বেছি, কিন্তু তেওঁলোকৰ জনসংখ্যাৰ বৃদ্ধিটো বাংলাদেশত এটলিষ্ট কিছুমান জাগাত সেইটো তেওঁলোকে অলপ সফলভাৱে মানে নিয়ন্ত্ৰণত আনিব পাৰিছে, যদিও সেইটো পুৰা মেক্ৰ' লেভেলত তথাপিও তেওঁলোকৰ জনসংখ্যাটো বহুত বেছি হৈ আছে। মই সেই বুলিয়ে ভাবোঁ, তাৰমানে দীৰ্ঘম্যাদী এটা সমাধান আনিবলৈ হ'লে আমাক এই শিক্ষাটো এটা খুব গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ কথা, আৰু বিশেষকে মহিলাৰ শিক্ষাটো খুব গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ কথা, তেওঁলোকক এম্পাৱাৰ কৰাটো খুব গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ কথা।
সেইটো হয়। মই সেইকাৰণে
ধৰ্মেন্দ্ৰ দা কওক।
হিৰণ্যক মানে একে লাইনতে মই ক'ব খুজিছো যে ইভেন ইন ইণ্ডিয়া চাউদাৰ্ণ ষ্টেটত কিন্তু পপুলেশ্যন অলমষ্ট ষ্টেবিলাইজ হৈ গৈছে।
হয়
And
হয়
India's population is increasing mainly because of the North India.
হয়
Within কিন্তু 10-15 years ভিতৰত ইণ্ডিয়াৰ পপুলেশ্যন অলমোস্ট এটা স্যাচুৰেশন লেভেল পাই যাব বুলি কৈছে তাতকে আৰু নাবাঢ়ে আৰু চাইনাত যেটো হৈছে আৰু গতিকে সেইটো এটা ডাঙৰ সমস্যা বুলি মই নাভাবো ইণ্ডিয়াৰ পপুলেশ্যন এক্সপ্লোজন হৈছে আমক তামক গতিকে এইটো এটা
এনিকডোটেলিও চাবলে মানুহ যিমানে শিক্ষিত হৈ গৈ এনিকডোটেলি চাবলে গলে আমাৰ এতিয়া অসমতে যদি চাওঁ যে অলপ শিক্ষা দীক্ষা পোৱা মানুহবিলাকৰটো জনসংখ্যা হেৰি কমিছে নহয় আৰু হেতু এটা মানে ইকনমিক্সত এটা লিটাৰেচাৰে আছে কোৱান্টিটি কোৱালিটি ট্ৰেড অফ এটা থাকে যে কিন্তু হেতু ফোৰ্সফুলি ওপৰৰ পৰা কৰিবলৈ গলে কিছুমান কথা অকমান মানে
তিনটালৈকে বাচ্চা পাৰমিট কৰিছে চাইনাত এতিয়া
হয় হয়
আৰু
নাই
ইণ্ডিয়া
তেওঁলোকৰটো সমস্যাটো বেলেগ হ'ল তেওঁলোকে হেতু জোৰ জবৰদস্তি নিয়ন্ত্ৰণ কৰিবলৈ যোৱাৰ ফলত হল কি তেওঁলোকৰ অন্য কিছুমান এটা ল'ৰা বা ছোৱালী জন্ম হ'ল তাৰ ফলত তেওঁলোকৰ আন কিছুমান সমস্যাৰ উদ্ভৱ হ'ল নহয় গতিকে সেই কথাটো আমি তেওঁলোকৰ পৰা শিকাটো উচিত গতিকে এটো ফোৰ্সফুলি কৰা কথা নহয় মানুহবিলাকক সজাগ কৰি মানুহবিলাকক শিক্ষা দি মহিলাক এম্পাৱাৰ কৰিলে মোৰ মতেৰে এই সমাধানটো দীৰ্ঘস্থায়ী হ'ব দীৰ্ঘম্যাদী
Chandan da is back. Chandan da.
I am back.
Chandan মই ধৰ্মেন্দ্ৰ
Hi Dharmendra.
জাস্ট তো ভাই কব খুব ভাল হৈছে লেকচাৰটো মই নিজে বহুত কথা শিকিলো মই কিবা এমএনসি ইউনিভাৰ্স আন্ড্ৰে বেটলি অলপ পঢ়িছিলো কেতিয়াবা কিন্তু আজি বহুত কথা গম পালো ভাল লাগিল
তোমালোক জয়েন কৰিছা যে ভাল লাগিল দেখি পেলাই
মই আৰু মোৰ কলেজ সদায় জয়েন কৰো ইনফেক্ট we are a organizer
great
organizer of this event আৰু এনেকা কৰি থাকো
বঢ়িয়া
আৰু আছাগে কিন্তু মই কৈছো যে ইমান এটা ডাইনামিক ভাইব্ৰেন্ট সাবজেক্ট এটা গুৱাহাটী ইউনিভাৰ্সিটিৰ আন্ডাৰৰ কলেজ বিলাকত অলমোস্ট নাই and even the government is not interested আমি কোনবা কলেজে খুলিলো গভর্নমেন্টে পোস্ট নিদি আমি আন্ডারটেকিং দিব লাগে গভর্নমেন্টক যে we will not seek sanction post from the government if we introduce any new course
হয়
গতিকে এইখানে সাবজেক্টটো অকমান আন্ডাৰ গুৱাহাটী ইউনিভাৰ্সিটি এৰিয়া it is still মানে not going further as we would have loved গতিকে কিবা কথা আছে কিন্তু ডিব্ৰুগড় ইউনিভাৰ্সিটি আন্ডাৰত বহুত কিখন কলেজত আছে আৰু খুব ভালকে চলি আছে গতিকে সেইকাৰণে এটলিষ্ট আজিৰ লেকচাৰটো মই সেইকাৰণে ষ্টুডেণ্টকো পাৰ্টিচিপেট কৰিব কৈছিলো যাতে তেওঁলোকক এটলিষ্ট মোটিভেট কৰে যে এটলিষ্ট পিজি লেভেলতো যাতে কিছুমান ল'ৰা ছোৱালীয়ে পাৰ্সিউ কৰিব পাৰে কাৰণ তেতিয়া বোধহয় পিজিত পঢ়াৰ কাৰণে কোনো সাবজেক্টৰ ৰেষ্ট্ৰিকশন নাই যে ইউজিত সোশিয়োলজি থাকিব লাগিব এক্স্যাক্টলি এইখিনি কথাই খুব ভাল লাগিল
আমাৰ এনে তোমাৰ পিজিত মানে গোটেই কিখন পিজি ইনষ্টিটিউচনত এতিয়া সোশিয়োলজি আছেতো গতিকে আৰু ষ্টুডেন্ট বহুত থাকে বহুতৰ এপ্লিকেশন আহে
এটোৱে মানে
আমিতো একমোডেটলি কৰিব নোৱাৰো কিমান
ইউজিত সোশিয়োলজি থাকিব
আইআইটি কোৱা টিস কোৱা কটন কোৱা
ইউজি কথাটো
কলেজ খুলিব পাৰিলে ভাল আছে নেটৱৰ্কটো অলপ বেয়া হৈ আছে
হিৰণ্যদা I think হিৰণ্যদা আপুনি আছে নে
আছো
নাই আৰু প্ৰশ্ন দেখা নাই মেবি মানে আপুনি সামাৰাইজ কৰি দিব পাৰে আপোনাৰ ভিডিঅ'টো এড কৰি দিব থ্যাংক ইউ
ধন্যবাদ অকমান আমাৰ কাৰিকৰী বিজুতি ঘটাৰ ফলত দুই এটা আলোচনা হয়তো আমাৰ যিদৰে হ'ব লাগিছিল সেইদৰে নহল তাৰ কাৰণে আমি ক্ষমা বিচাৰিছো আৰু ইয়াত উপস্থিত থকা আটাইকে 15 মিনিট শিক্ষাৰ তৰফৰ পৰা আন্তৰিক ধন্যবাদ জ্ঞাপন কৰিছো অধ্যাপক চন্দন কুমাৰ শৰ্মাক আমাৰ তৰফৰ পৰা আন্তৰিক কৃতজ্ঞতা জ্ঞাপন কৰিছো আৰু আমি আশা কৰিছো যে তেওঁ আকৌ উভতি আহিব আমাৰ মঞ্চত আকৌ বক্তব্য ৰাখিব আমাৰ শিক্ষাৰ্থীসকলৰ সৈতে তেওঁ ভাৱ বিনিময় কৰিব তাৰ জৰিয়তে এই যেটো সমাজ তত্ত্বৰ বিষয়টোৰ বিষয়ে অন্তত আমাৰ অসম বা উত্তৰ পূবৰ ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীসকলক জনোৱাৰ বহুত অৱসৰ আছে বুলি আমি ভাবো আমাৰ এইটো আসলতে এইটো বিষয়ৰ প্ৰথম বক্তৃতা আছিল গতিকে আমি আশা ৰাখিছো যে প্ৰফেসৰ শৰ্মা আমাৰ মাজলৈ আকৌ আহিব, তেওঁ বক্তব্য ৰাখিব। ইয়াকে কৈ আজিৰ অনুষ্ঠানটো আমি সামৰিছো। আমাৰ পৰৱৰ্তী অনুষ্ঠান এপ্ৰিলৰ 2 তাৰিখে, তাত উপস্থিত থাকিব আৰুণী কাশ্যপ, তেওঁ ইউনিভাৰ্চিটি অফ জৰ্জিয়া আটলান্টাৰ সহকাৰী অধ্যাপক আৰু তেওঁ ক্ৰিয়েটিভ ৰাইটিং প্ৰজেক্টৰ সঞ্চালক। তেখেতো এজন পৰিচিত লেখক, তেওঁ ইংৰাজী অসমীয়া দুইটা ভাষাতে লিখে আৰু উঠি অহা চামৰ ভিতৰত আমাৰ উত্তৰ পূব বা অসমৰ উঠি অহা লেখকসকলৰ ভিতৰত অতি প্ৰতিভাৱান লেখক। তেখেতক আমি লগ পাম 15 মিনিট শিক্ষাৰ মঞ্চত এপ্ৰিলৰ 2 তাৰিখে। ইয়াকে কৈ আজিৰ অনুষ্ঠান সামৰিছো। ধন্যবাদ।
ধন্যবাদ হিৰণ্য, আকৌ আহিবলৈ ভাল পাম। এই সুযোগটো দিয়াৰ বাবে ভাল লাগিলে। সময়ৰ অলপ নাটনি হলেও আৰু যিমানখিনি পাৰি আৰু
নাই, ঠিকে
কাৰিকৰী
আছে।
সমস্যা হৈছে।
বঢ়িয়া।